90s rap is often referred to as the golden age of hip-hop, when Biggie and Tupac, Nas and the Wu-Tang Clan, Jay-Z and Eminem laid down some of the most legendary tracks in music history. But what if I told you that it's all a lie? Here are 10 reasons why 90s hip-hop sucks. Before you start protesting, though, subscribe to our channel and like this video. Babbletop is about to blow your mind. Ghostwriters wrote the classics. Nowadays, there's a lot of controversy over whether or not Drake writes his own rhymes. But have you ever considered that your favorite classic 90s New York rap song might have been ghostwritten too? Jay-Z wrote Dre's lyrics on Still Dre. Though a genius beatmaker, Dre was never a skilled rapper. Eminem also wrote the producer's part on Forget About Dre. The DOC helped him out on Nothing But a G-Thing. Puff Daddy was notorious for employing ghostwriters including 50 Cent, Mad Skills, and Sauce Money. And then there's Nas. The rapper with the most critically acclaimed debut album ever wrote Will Smith's Gettin' Jiggy With It, and many of Pharrell's hits. However, the Source editor Dream Hampton has alleged that the Queensbridge native employed ghostwriters himself. Jay Electronica and Stick of Dead Prez apparently wrote Nasty Nas's lyrics on his 2008 Untitled LP. Both rappers denied the claim.
Saying come in and write my verse for me like that, nah, that didn't happen.
Okay.
But we did get to work with Nas extensively on the Nigga album.
Oh yeah, and you know how some people think Old Dirty Bastard was one of the best rappers of his day? Well, it turns out RZA and GZA wrote most of ODB's legendary album Return to the 36 Chambers. Biggie and Tupac would have fell off. Remember when Eminem and Jay-Z were the kings of hip-hop? Maybe not. Much like the Rolling Stones, they're now semi-retired acts still milking their relentlessly sycophantic fanbase. You can't expect them to stay on top forever. Likewise, Biggie and Tupac would have eventually fallen off. They died at the peak of their powers, and much like James Dean, will be remembered for putting out classics after classics. Maybe they would have ended up like Jay-Z and Eminem, but they also could have taken a deep dive into mediocrity and embarrassment. Remember DMX? Younger rap fans mostly know the Yonkers native for his battle with mental illness and drug addiction, offering quick glimpses of his genius only to follow them up with fresh new scandals at every turn. 90s rap is bad for children. 90s rap evolved to shock its listeners and their prudish parents. Gangster rappers glorified the violence they witnessed in the streets of Compton, while New York rappers boasted about selling dope and smoking weed. Women were treated like furniture and sex objects. Whoever said the most outrageous thing would win rap fans' hearts and hard-earned cash. However, the rise of hip-hop and mainstream music forced the Recording Industry Association of America to introduce a warning label on two Live Crew's Banned in the USA album. Media outlets argued that rap infected children's minds, encouraging them to commit senseless acts of violence and debauchery. When Slim Shady hit the airwaves in 1998, he immediately became the most scandalous rapper of all time. His tongue-in-cheek rhymes poked fun at homophobia, domestic abuse, drug abuse, and his own mom. To this day, the trends set in the 90s still encapsulate most themes in hip-hop. 90s rap is materialistic. When 90s rappers broke down the doors of mainstream America and started making a lot of cash, they started rapping about acquiring luxury. Instead of rhyming about skills, you now have pop stars dressed in hoodies and baggy jeans rapping about zeros in their bank accounts. While 80s rappers like Public Enemy, Ice Cube, and KRS-One spit rhymes about social injustice, most 90s artists sought to fill up their coffers. Even the fun-loving music of native tongues took a backseat. Labels like Rockefeller, Bad Boy, Cash Money, No Limit, Def Jam, and more all aimed to smash the airwaves with as many glittery hip-hop songs as they could, flooding the market with shallowness. As hip-hop artists made more money, they started to rap about their new environments and what they thought was the only way out of the poverty trap. Yet, riding around in luxury cars or stepping out with a Kardashian is not what hip-hop was founded on. But thanks to the musical explosion of the 90s, Kylie Jenner has now entered our rap lexicon. 90s rap songs are played out. Hip-hop artists are like news reporters for the black community. They spit about things that matter to a certain demographic at a certain time and a certain place.
I just try to speak about things that affect me and about things that affect our community. And I try to do it from the viewpoint of the watcher.
That's why many rap fans can only pretend to understand some of their favorite 90s tracks. Take, for example, Tupac's lyric on How Do You Want It? Mr. Bob Dole, You're too old to understand why the game's told. You're lame, so I gotta hit you with the hot facts. Who in 2017 knows who the hell Bob Dole is? At the time, Dole was running for president and set his sights on hip-hop. He shamed Time Warner into abandoning the gangster rap business. This was a pretty big deal. Pac attacked Dole, 70 years old at the time, calling him lame for opposing hip-hop, but also because of limited mobility in his right arm. Dole was severely injured while fighting the Nazis during World War II. If a listener wasn't alive or too young in '96, they have no clue what Shakur meant when he attacked the ancient politician. The 2000s were better than the 90s. The legendary Golden Age arguably only lasted a year, 1996. The Fugees' The Score, Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, Tupac's All Eyes on Me, and Mobb Deep's Hell on Earth seared their imprint on hip-hop culture. But a year does not make a decade. While regional boundaries limited the collaborations between superior rap artists in the 90s, the 2000s were no holds barred. When the East Coast-West Coast rap beefs died out after the death of rap giants Biggie and Tupac, the hip-hop world was shaken to its core. But after the apocalypse, the world rebuilt itself. Dipset collaborated with Philadelphia's Freeway and Southern rapper producer extraordinaire Master P, crashing New York's rap orthodoxy. Atlanta native T.I. pioneered trap music in the aughts. Today, it's the most copied style across the genre. Chi-Town native Kanye took the producer-rapper role to another level, revolutionizing the musical landscape. 50 Cent invaded the airwaves with G-Unit, a team of rappers from all over the place. Besides, Eminem really hit his peak with 2002's Lose Yourself. So did Lil Wayne with the Carter albums. It was also the decade where the mainstream finally gave props to hip-hop. Both Eminem and 3 6 Mafia earned Academy Awards for their music, breaking the glass ceiling. Late 90s rap really sucks. What really sinks the 90s as a decade was what happened after Biggie and Tupac died. There was a time when Puff Daddy was one of the most popular rappers around, and that guy can't even rap. This was arguably Bad Boy Records' most prolific era. The Lox, 112, Total, Black Rob, and G-Dep made Puff a lot of money while the musical landscape suffered. Puff's rap protege Mace filled the vacuum left by Notorious B.I.G.'s untimely death. He became a fixture in the Big Apple with crappy, over-stylized tunes like Feels So Good and What You Want. Mace's sudden rise to fame overwhelmed him, though. He retired from the music industry before the turn of the millennium and became a pastor.
God doesn't speak that way. And people try to make God out into this deep person. He's really pretty simple. Do it.
Will Smith smelled the golden opportunity to drop corny gems like Men in Black, Just the Two of Us, and Wild Wild West. The tracks felt more like commercials for his movies than genuine attempts to make people dance. Nas, Dr. Dre, and Foxy Brown also rode that wave on their collaboration album The Firm. Those who thought the Wu-Tang Clan would save the end of the decade were badly disappointed by their long-awaited second album Wu-Tang Forever. It failed to capture the zeitgeist like 36 Chambers did. Even Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit tried his hand at the rap game. Yeah, this is how bad it got. Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer. Rap music almost died of a massive heart failure in the early 90s. Imagine a parallel universe where Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer are the most popular rappers on earth. The forefathers of glorified struggle rap struck gold that year. The OG of lame, Vanilla Ice, birth name Robert Van Winkle, had several hits, including the sadly unforgettable Ice Ice Baby and Ninja Rap from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze soundtrack. It holds the dubious honor of being the first hip-hop song to top the Billboard charts. You can still hear it in commercials, at meetings with corny execs trying to show off their old age and bad taste, and at tired karaoke parties.
When I first heard that Mac and Cheese was creating Ninja Turtle shapes, I was like, genius. This is the most awesome thing ever. I love Mac and Cheese, and I love the Ninja Turtles.
It might be even more popular than the sample it was built on, Queen's Under Pressure with David Bowie. Meanwhile, MC Hammer was so popular that he had his own Saturday morning cartoon and his own line of dolls. His claim to fame, You Can't Touch This, sampled Super Freak, musical giant Rick James' sultry hits. Dancing maniacally while wearing parachute pants, MC Hammer was the opposite of gangster rap. He sermoned people to pray and help the children. When his popularity dwindled, Hammer tried to look more badass. He reportedly had even Tupac ghostwriting his lyrics. It was all in vain, though. In a move that should stun no one, he devoted himself full-time to his Christian ministry when he fell off by the late 1990s. The decline of female rappers started in the 90s. In the late 80s, several female rappers made impacts with lyrical talents and abilities to move crowds. MC Lyte, Salt and Peppa, and Queen Latifah all carried that momentum into the next decade. By the late 90s, though, the number of female rappers started to dwindle. Granted, the earlier 90s were the heyday of feminist rap with names like Yo-Yo, Money Love, Da Brat, and The Lady of Rage. But by the time Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown came on the scene, they became more recognized for being sex kittens. Only Lauryn Hill released more chart toppers than Foxy and Kim. Eve and Missy Elliott also proved that a female rapper could be sexy and lyrically gifted at the same time. The original ladies of rap stopped producing albums, though. MC Lyte, Salt and Pepper, Money Love, and Yo-Yo's careers all hit walls right before the new millennium. On top of that, Missy Elliott went into hiding, Lauryn Hill, Lil' Kim, and Foxy Brown all flamed out, and even Queen Latifah transitioned into acting and other endeavors. Rap was heavily censored. The establishment pushed back against the surging tide of hip-hop. Music moguls even fed hip-hop heads sugar-coated alternatives like Vanilla Ice and Hammer.
Go ninja, go, 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 go.
Police systematically shut down NWA concerts across the country. The timeless anthem, F the Police, provoked a law enforcement crusade against the group.
We'll put you on tour, but you can't perform that song. Cops everywhere, they ready to shut you down. So we agreed to that until we got mad at the promoter.
That same year, thanks to hits like Me So Horny, 2 Live Crew was put on trial for obscenity. Record store retailers could be arrested for selling their album as nasty as they want to be. Politician and civil rights activist C. Dolores Tucker waged war against hip-hop.
That undermines the stability of our families, communities, and nation by encouraging violence, abuse, and sexism as acceptable behaviors, and perpetuates the cycle of low self-esteem of African American youth.
Tucker bought shares in companies to block the sale of hip-hop records. She protested the NAACP for giving a 1994 Image Award to Tupac Shakur. She even sued Shakur for attacking her on How Do You Want It and Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. Nowadays, rap music and its derivatives all rule the charts. Artists refer to themselves as rock stars. They've become as big as the Beatles were back in the 60s. The culture's gone worldwide. So why long for the days when Newt Gingrich encouraged advertisers to drop hip-hop radio stations? Give us your thoughts about 90s rap. Sound off in the comments below. Check out our other videos, and thanks for watching.